Welcome to Wrestling Adversity, a podcast and platform dedicated to telling stories of overcomers, conquerors, and champions. Not all of our guests will be wrestlers, but they wrestle with something in life and they've won. This next guest, legendary coach in the making, former teammate of mine, former mentor, good brother of mine, head coach at Life University, former Grandview National champ. Say no more. Welcome on me, Acosta.
Hey man, like always, it's a blessing that I get to be in this podcast with you and one of my close boys. So I'm glad I'm here to talk about wrestling adversity, man. Because God knows I've been through some stuff.
Yes, sir, man. Now knowing your background, if you guys don't know, originally Coach was born in New York, moved to Dominican Republic, and then later got into his wrestling quest in the state of Florida. Can you tell us a little bit about your adversity, growing up from transitioning from New York to DR to Florida, and just a quick synopsis of how that affected you and how that kind of made you who you are today?
Yeah, so the reason why I was born in New York, in Brooklyn, actually, I don't really claim New York as a place where I'm from because I was only there for 6 months. But what happened was my dad was a famous Dominican musician. His name is Coqui Acosta. If you want to go watch him on YouTube, you can see him dancing and doing a whole bunch of weird dance moves and Dominican stuff with jelly curls and stuff. Kind of cool to watch, and so make sure you check him out. So he was on tour, and obviously, I don't think he was making the best choices at that time, and him and my mom decided to split. And when that split happened, they were both touring in New York, and my mom decided to stay in New York City working, and I got sent back to Dominican Republic to be raised by my grandma. And the reason why my mom sent me back was at that time, New York, Brooklyn, essentially was not a safe place. The crack epidemic was just running rampant. A lot of people getting arrested, and I had some family members and uncles who were involved in that world. And my mom did not want to give me that lifestyle or introduce me to that lifestyle. So she decided to make the decision to just send me back to DR. And there I was raised by my grandma in a household of, 10, 15 people. And all my cousins grew up while, our uncles and aunts were abroad working and sending money back to the DR. I have family that were in Spain, New York, all over the world. And so it was a difficult situation, but I understand why my mom left my dad and all that stuff. So I have like 12 siblings from my dad. So living the musician lifestyle is not the best lifestyle to have children around. And I think she made the best decision for me at the time.
Man, that's awesome. As we spoke previously about your backstory a little bit, and it seemed as if you had family of world travelers. You said you had family in Spain, obviously you had family in the States. Did that ever inspire you as a kid to knowing that you had a lineage that was going to make a name for themselves? Obviously, your father being a famous musician. Did you feel that inside of you? That greatness was inside of you?
Nah, bro, I actually hated music. My whole family is a music family. There were, Dominican artists, and everybody in my family like played instruments and all that stuff. But I had a lot of hate and animosity towards my father at that time, so I didn't want to do anything that had to do with music. But I think I got something from that side of his family that I got obsessed with the sport of wrestling, just how he was obsessed with music. And since my mom got remarried and we moved to Florida, to tell the truth, I really did not want to leave Dominican Republic.
Mm.
It's a beautiful little island, beautiful country. I did go through a lot of adversity there with my mom and my dad, but living in DR is like carefree, man. Island living, you know what I mean? Once you get to the United States, it's a lot of things that come with being trying to chase the American dream. So
Uh-huh.
at that time, I was I really did enjoy living in the Dominican Republic.
Now, as you came into moving over to the states with your mother in Florida, I know that's kind of when you got introduced to the sport of wrestling. Can you tell us your earliest memories of wrestling and I know that we're from the famous school of South Day. Can you tell us a little bit of your introduction to that experience?
Yeah, so I moved to the Dominican Republic. I was in and out, and I finally moved full time my freshman year in high school. Just because I was getting older, and I went to Catholic school in DR, and I was not listening to the nuns and none of that. I was not being the best kid. So my mom was like, "Ah, you need to come back with me." And Rudy, my stepdad, big shout out to that man. I would not be here without Rudy. So we moved to Miami, and obviously I went to South Dade. I didn't know English, so not knowing English, you feel disconnected with the whole community and the school as a whole. So I started getting in trouble, hanging around with the wrong people. And Hispanic kids in Miami that don't have a lot to look for usually find trouble because Miami's full of trouble everywhere because Miami never sleeps. And I started to, either, go towards like hanging out with guys that were in gangs and different things like that. And I met one guy named Margarito Cruz. And, there's all the guys like Jesus Jaimes and different, Spanish speaking wrestlers, that saw me and they saw I was a little guy that had a little attitude. They were like, hey, man, you should probably go try wrestling. And I was like, no way, bro. I weigh 80 pounds as a freshman. 80 pounds. I was like, there's no way I'm wrestling because I thought wrestling was like WWE. And, I show up to the first wrestling practice. I see my coach, Victor Balmaceda, big, jacked, white dude that looked jacked and looked close. Oh, man, I want to be like that guy. And then I see Coach Duck, a real relaxed Mexican dude that just talks really soft, but his technique was just crazy. And I just, as soon as I saw them, I was a kid looking for a father figure, a kid looking for somewhere to fit, and I perfectly fit in that South Dade mold. And I was probably in JV for 2 years. I got my butt kicked by legendary people like Tico Baez, Rat, James
Uh,
Williams, a lot of people, and I fell in love with the sport. I fell in love with the process, and I learned English through wrestling. I remember in my ESOL class, the teacher telling us, "Hey, you have to go and read books, because you have to read books to get points or whatever." So I will go in and check out Dan Gable books running chicken wings from the 70s. You see him in a really weird singlet on top, running a chicken wing, like figure one, figure two, figure three. And I was a nerd. I really fell in love with, getting better. And God blessed me with the opportunity to be part of South Day Wrestling. And it was awesome. It's an awesome beginning for me and an awesome base of fundamentals. The way that we drill and the way we were executing technique was crazy, and that's why I jumped levels so fast in the wrestling world.
so we go from starting just as a freshman in high school. We're barely 80 pounds soaking wet. When do we get that? When's the first win that you remember that lets you know, like, I can do this? Like, I can be really good at this thing?
My first win ever at South Dade versus Palmetto High School. I remember that like today, and that's one
Yeah.
of our rivals. It was a JV duel before they had a JV duel, then they had the varsity duel at South Dade. So I remember like it was today. I'm wrestling this big athletic, black kid from Miami, bro, jacked, and I weigh like probably by that time like 90 pounds. They didn't have a 103. They didn't have a 112. That dude weighed 119, and that at that
Oh,
time that's a big difference. So
yeah.
I go out there, boy, and I'm just getting worked, and I end up winning the match. I don't know how I end up winning my first high school JV match. I ended up winning, and since then I got addicted to that feeling of getting your hand raised. Like I told my guys, like winning. When you get your hand raised, and I mean you're a champion, you're a two-time champ. There's people out there that do drugs to get that feeling that we feel when we get our hand raised. Just that feeling of overcoming adversity and doing something you never thought was possible. There's nothing more beautiful than that and that feeling. And I got hooked. And once I got hooked, I continued to work hard. I was in JV the following year again. And I started a little bit at 106, 103. There was a really tough starter for South Days, and it was Miguel Rios that was starting over me. I couldn't beat him. So I had to sit, and finally my junior year, that's when I finally broke the lineup. I was the man for the weight class, and I had a good junior season. I didn't end up doing what I wanted to do. I was ranked
What
number
weight
two
did
in
we
the
come in our What weight did we come in our junior year?
my junior year. I was a 112 pounder. I
Okay.
finally, getting a little bit of weight. I was cutting weight finally, which I finally hit me. I was like, I got to cut a little bit of weight. And I took six in the state of Florida, placed third at preseason nationals. Everything was going, towards up. Then my senior year comes. I had a great summer season. I went to the App State wrestling camp. I was wrestling all summer, hanging around with two of my best friends, Eric and Gabe Chandler, and big shout out to Scotty Sentes too. We were wrestling all
Shout
summer.
out Scotty Sentes.
Yeah, Sentes was one of my buddies, and that dude was like 6 foot tall, 120, 133 pounders. So imagine wrestling that spider monkey all the time, and
Yep.
that summer was perfect. That summer we got better, and my first tournament of the season, my senior year. I'm wrestling. I'm doing really well. Beat a couple state placers in the semis. I wrestled one of my really good friends, Gabriel Chandler. He ended up being a 2 or 3 time state champion. He was a returning state champ that year. I ended up beating him. And in the finals, I broke my hand, and that put me back, a whole lot.
So obviously we had some momentum picking up, and we talked about this obviously face to face, just through our brotherhood. But let me know, what kind of adversity, or bad thoughts do we have to kind of overcome when that hand gets broken, right? Because we're still in Miami, there's still wrestling going on, but obviously you're getting a little older, right? So how are you able to separate yourself from your neighborhood friends and still stay connected with your wrestling teammates through the injury?
Coach B, did a good job. Basically, just stuck around, and I was that guy working out with a cast on my wrist. I had to get surgery and everything. It was a pretty bad break, so I got surgery as soon as possible, and I was able to get cleared. So I want to make sure that people know I did get clear, but I ended up losing my wrestle off. I came back and lost to one of my really good friends. And I lost the wrestle off, and after that, I was pretty down. I was not really excited about it, but I knew that I had to be there for my team. That team on 2008 was really special, and seeing my friend Josh Williams, being able to go to the state tournament and place. Made me extremely happy just because I'm a team player, and I learned to realize that a lot of wrestling is not about you, and it's more about the team. So I continue to follow South Dade and showed up to every tournament with them, and they made history that year. They beat Brandon and beat the streak. If you guys don't know what that is, go on YouTube and watch the ESPN documentary on Brandon. So I was part of that team, and I'm extremely proud of my senior year. Even though I didn't get to wrestle, I'm extremely proud of my friends and the people that fought on that team because it was extremely. We made history, and it was awesome. I got the ring right here, man. To think
Yes,
about it,
sir.
man, it's really cool. You can see on the ring it says that history made, 8 times state champs. Now South Date's like 20, 25 state champs or something like
Yeah,
that. My coach
yeah.
retired this, but it's pretty awesome.
No, I think that's what I love so much about your story, Omi, is it's almost like God placed you in these like tremendous wrestling and atmospheres, as if he knew that your personality, your characteristics would just kind of grow in these environments. Obviously, from there, then your future in GV, just coming up and being part of like historical programs, and obviously what you're building right now with your own program. It feels awesome to see that you lived through that experience. So when you coach your kids through it, they know you're not just talking bull crap. Like you really bought in. You really have to be the guy that wait and cheer your teammate on and wait for your time to have your own successful moment. But moving forward, after we have that short stint and of beating that injury, obviously it's everyone's dream to go D1. Instead, you go to Wabanzi Junior College, and there you become a national champ. Can you tell us a little bit about that experience and becoming a national champion and how Wabanzi's not the not really known for a wrestling school, but you made it happen?
Yeah, number one thing, if Wabansi people are listening, bring wrestling back to Wabansi. You guys made a difference. You gotta make change. We need wrestling at all JUCOs if we can because wrestling
Yes, sir.
creates great men. So that's
Yes, sir.
number one. Number two, big shout out to Coach Gross. Dale Gross was a coach I was coaching at Harper Community College, and then he ended up going to Wabansi. I actually was gonna go to Harper Community College, but Coach Luprino didn't pick up the phone. I think he didn't want no more crazy Miami guys going to Harper. So I ended up wrestling at Wabansi, which is not too far from Harper, and a whole bunch of South Day guys wrestle at Harper. And before my class, we had a couple years before me, we had a couple guys from South Day that went there as well. Like Ray Stevens. He's a three-time national champ. He took second. Howard Bonsley won and then won two national titles for Lindenwood. He was one of
Yep.
my big mentors at that time. So I ended up going to Wabanzi, and I really loved my experience. I had Coach John Robinson. He was a great coach. He was really he got me to be the best that he could be, and he showed me the other side of coaching. He was really nice. He was really kind and will do anything for you. So I felt that I had to wrestle really tough for him and Coach Gross just because of the type of people that they were. So, I got to Wabansi. I placed at the national tournament as a freshman, and then the following year I ended up winning a really loaded bracket, which brought extremely joy to me and my family, and that opened up a lot of doors and a lot of opportunities for me to see what's next after JUCO, which JUCO is great. It creates great opportunities.
Yes, sir. Me being a JUCO guy as well. Like Omi said, man, make sure JUCO is implemented at every junior college across wrestling, across the whole country. It's needed, it's valuable, and it's a very affordable sport. So let's talk about obviously you win the national tournament and then junior college. Do you kind of feel in that moment like, all right, the development from South Dade is still like in me, and it's still kind of it still hasn't fully shown yet, but I'm showing that like I'm a product of this great system. How does that energy transition you into Des Moines, Iowa at Grandview University?
Number one thing, like I think I was a late bloomer. I became a man in JUCO. Like I grew, I hit puberty. I became a man. So also a big shout out to my teammates that were there. Number one, my freshman year I had Tico Bias. It's a three-timer from South Day, four-time finalist. Like without that guy kicking my butt every day, I will not be here where I am today. So I'm extremely thankful for Tico. And all the other guys that were there, one of my best friends of all time, Tommy Perez, which he followed me to Grandview. We just pushed and made each other better. And then I could go on and on about my teammates that I had at Wabanzi, but those were the meaningful ones that really helped me and shaped me. And JUCO, like is the Wild West. You go out there, you got to get in shape, and you just freaking wrestle and
Yeah.
do it. So he opened the opportunity for me to, even almost chase the D1 dream that everybody had. Like I was getting after JUCO calls to go Division 1. I got Division 2, different calls, but I finally felt like I needed to go to a smaller school, and I really took that into consideration. And I really wanted to go to Lindenwood at first, just because all the South Day guys were going over there. But my junior college coach John Robinson, he didn't send the fax to Lindenwood, and he told me, "Hey, you're gonna Grandview," and I listened to him. I have a lot of love for that guy, so I just decided to go with Mitchell, and Mitchell had a great dream and a great vision, and I wanted to be part of the first team to ever do it, and he sold me the dream and the vision and the mission, and I wanted to be part of that.
Now, me being a Grandview guy as well, and a lot of the reasons why I chose to go to Grandview is because of guys like yourself. Coming in being, I think, the third national champ overall, but the first national champ of color. And I think it's so important to kind of, in order for young guys to do it, they got to see someone that looks like them sometimes do it, right? And your influence at Grandview is probably larger than you know, but as you get to Des Moines, you're a part of the class with like shouts out Ty Noller, all the original guys, Glenn Reese, all those guys. What are some adversity you had to challenge before getting that first title for Mitchell?
Man, diversity was my own self, my own way,
Mm,
and that's
mm.
something I dealt with in my whole life. Even in my coaching world, like I'm the worst person sometimes, but I'm starting to recognize that as I'm getting older and I'm getting a little bit more emotional intelligence. And big shout out to Mitchell. He dealt with me as an athlete and dealt with me as a coach that thought I got everything figured out. And at that time, I thought I was the champ, JUCO boy. I'm a national champ. You can't tell me what to do. I'm gonna do it my way, right? And he ended up backfiring on me. My junior year didn't go as well as I planned. I should have definitely probably competed for a national title that year. I beat in some of the top guys on that bracket. However, I was not being a good teammate. I remember missing weight at national duels and being selfish and not thinking about the team, rather thinking about myself, about being hungry and disciplined. And I remember at national duels, I'm sitting on top of the bleachers, all the way on top, while Grandview is wrestling down there, and I'm just up there. I remember Mitchell texting me like, "Hey man, you need to get down here." He didn't scream at me. He didn't talk to me crazy. And just those experiences and how I made him feel that year made me to really appreciate what type of man he is. He should have taken some of my money. I felt like I was a catfish at first because I was supposed to be a national champ and I wasn't. And he treated me with nothing but love and respect. And I felt like this guy that just barely met this Dominican dude really has love for me that much not to do that. So I decided to completely buy into the system. Even though Iowa was extremely cold for me, the snow and everything, I just decided to put all those things aside and really, really buy into Grandview and not think so much about Miami and really focus on my craft there. And after I did that and I bought in, my senior season was great. I had a great experience. We did something that people thought it was, impossible, and Mitchell's vision and mission, ended up happening. We were national champs, and we were the first one to ever do it for Grandview, and it was a great feeling.
What are some key things, man, that Mitchell said that really grabbed your attention? Because obviously I've been in that recruitment, room with him, and I'm like the second coming of like you guys and Thompson. Obviously after that, me and Finch and the other guys came in, that were super high quality guys. But what are some things that Mitchell just said to you, or really that said to you, that just drew to you, that were like, you know what, I'm coming here.
Like the number one thing was just to believe that, hey, we're gonna do this. You're gonna be part of it. And one thing that resonated with me, and I try to share that with my guy as well, was this: when Mitchell told me, "Hey, I want to be in your life, not just for wrestling. I want to be in your life forever. Meaning, I want to go to your wedding. I want to be involved." And that right there really caught my attention because I'm a personal guy. Like I go an extra mile with people that really care about me, and I just felt like I could wrestle for a guy like Mitchell. He was a straight shooter. great freaking recruiter, and we're really great with psychology. You tell him no, and then you get out his office saying yes. So Mitchell was special. He had the quality that he could make people do things they didn't want to do. So just fully buying in and sipping on the Kool Aid and not and believing what he said, and that's what finally got me to buy in completely and really reach my goals. Because the job of a coach, now that I'm older, is to get somebody from point A to point B in the best shape possible. And Mitchell was great at that. He was great at getting people and getting the best out of people. And that's something that I truly admire and I try to mimic every day with my guys.
Now, I mean, that's a pleasure to hear, Bill. Hey, now as we're moving forward, as from you becoming a national champion, right, and then you becoming a part of the staff at Grandview, right, and then you had a stint when you went to the Coastal Guard, right, I believe for a season or 2 seasons.
Mhm.
Then we came back to GV and continued to coach. What can you say from an athlete to a coach? Like, how does your mindset have to change? And what's one step in the coaching chair, something that you learned that you probably just didn't know at all?
Reedy, Paul Reedy, shout out to the best assistant, now associate head coach I ever met. Without him, I would not be here today with his positive encouragements and all that stuff. So, Reedy just told me one day, hey, big dog, coaching ain't about you, man. Nobody cares if you want a national title or not. It's not about you. And that right there is the number one thing for me. Like, my career and my success was great. I'm proud of it. But not all these athletes are like me. They're different. And you have to figure out what motivates them to reach those goals or their goals they have in mind. So having the ability to put the athletes first is the number one part of being a great leader. And I think, Paul Reedy and Mitchell were great leaders because they did that. They embodied that. They make sure that their coaching philosophy is I believe, is student athlete centered because they did everything to make sure we live our right lifestyle and also to make sure we had a meaningful experience that we could carry on for the rest of our lives. And I'm certainly thankful for that.
For sure. Now, when we get into, you know, you accepting the position at life, and I mean, you guys has built a great situation over there, getting a lot of notoriety across the country, not just with the men's program, but also with the women's program and Club Lucha, and just great momentum. What can you say is the secret sauce behind Life Youth culture, and what makes your program different from any other culture in the country?
I don't think there's a secret sauce. I mean, number one thing, people always want a secret sauce or the secret pill or the injection to get skinny or whatever, right? There's no such thing as easy in wrestling, brother. Like, I grew up in the Dominican Republic. We get hit by hurricanes. We get hit by different things. I grew up with adversity and overcoming it. That's all I know. So when I get a challenge, I don't see it as a bad thing. I see it as a puzzle that I have to figure out. And I love solving puzzles, especially when it comes to a team and a season. And that just everything was a culmination of my upbringing and how I grew up. Number one, I was single. I didn't have nobody. I was 25 years old, full of energy. So I just put my head down. I went to work. I didn't like the results that we were getting. I hate losing. Especially in the beginning we weren't even close to losing. We lose to Granby all the time and everything, and it was freaking detrimental. And sometimes I took those L's really personal, like to the point that like I will not want to talk to Mitchell or Reedy. I'll be like freaking childish. And that's something that I've learned as a comparison. An older guy, like I said, I have more emotional intelligence. Like, and I was going through some dark times, trying to figure it out, trying to win at all costs. And it finally happened in 2021, and we continue to get better. And now that I'm a little bit more older and smarter, like I treat it in a different way. I think wrestling is something we get to do. It's a really good thing that we do, and I shouldn't take things personal. Now I don't take things personal anymore. But in the beginning, I think it was necessary for me to take things personal for us to reach the level of success we had. And no disrespect to Mitch or Reedy, but my goal was to freaking, if it was my grandma in front of me, like Mitchell taught me, that my grandma's gonna get it. And that was the attitude that I had. And, it's just kind of like that's how it is. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir, man. Let's talk more about that 2021, not the whole season, but the moment, right? Did the moment of like I want to dethrone my former coach, do you know that you have it inside of you? Because I mean, when you think about our coach Mitchell and Mitchell as being our coach, we do sometimes put these guys on pedestals, right? Because in order for us to follow in the route, that you got to make sure that you're doing everything the right way, and you got to make sure you have a process, and you got to execute everything properly, and you got good assistant coaches because that's everything that he has and their program has. What did it feel like in that moment to get that trophy and to know, you were the one to debunk, the 10 championships in a row for Grandview.
Number one, I love Mitchell. He's my boy. I don't want to see him sad. So it's kind of
Yeah.
like, yeah, I want to beat him, but you also like, I wish it wasn't him. You know what I mean? Because
Mhm.
I don't want to do that to him. You know what I mean? But it just had to be. No, it didn't have to be done, but just how it happened. I was more shocking that we did it, just for the fact that that year was weird, man. COVID was a year that we didn't even know we were gonna have a chance. So my guys that year took it a little bit different, maybe, and that's why it gave us the edge. But I remember going up to Grandview that same season. We lost to every guy from Grandview, and then a national tournament, we flipped every win. We ended up beating every head-to-head Grandview guy we had, and that's how we ended up winning the national championship. We ended up getting bonus points. We ended up coming from behind and winning. So it was just a culmination of a lot of things. And the feeling, I'm gonna tell you this, the feeling was great, but after that, more pressure comes. It's like, how can I do this again? And that's what every time you win, that's what you go through your mind, like, how can I do this again? And it's kind of like a really addictive feeling that you get when you win, that you're trying to chase again. So now that I'm more mature, I really don't want to chase that feeling. I just want to chase experiences with my guys. Those are the things that I'm looking for right now. It doesn't really matter about winning or losing. Yeah, I want to compete at a high level, but I'm looking for experiences. I'm looking for to get the best out of my guys in the sport of wrestling and outside, and that gives me a different perspective on how I do things.
Yes, sir, man. I love that. I love that. Now, let's move. I mean, when you talk about the DR to Florida to Illinois to Des Moines, it says faith and purpose. Looking back on your journey from the streets of Florida to a national championships, where do you see God's hands on you and your divine timing? What do you think about that?
God's been around my whole life, bro. Like I said, I grew up in a tough environment. Drugs all around me. Um, Being able to be raised to be the man that I am today, it really has to be God and wrestling and my mom. Because I've been around some stuff. Like I said, we've been hit with hurricanes where we didn't have no water for like 3 months, no electricity. We had to like walk miles to bring water back to the house. So all that adversity was kind of like a culmination to get me to where I am now. So I'm extremely thankful for God, because God doesn't put things in your plate that you can't handle. And I felt
Hmm.
that He just keep putting things that He knows that I could handle, and He knows I love challenges. And as a team, we have I love Peace Psalm 141:1 that says, "Blessed be the Lord, the Rock, who strengthens my hands for war and my fingers for battle." And that's something that I learned that as a young age to always say before I go and compete or before I go do something tough. Blessed be the Lord, the Rock, who strengthens my hands for war and my fingers for battle. I'm battle tested because God made me this way, and I'm extremely thankful for Him. And in reality, if you look at the Bible and everything, Jesus was the best coach that there ever was. So just being able to learn from
Man,
Him and be able to implement the things that He taught, His disciples and all that. So it's pretty awesome, because He got people that were from different places of the world to come together and really chase a purpose and a mission. So that's something I'm trying to do and mimic every day.
yes, sir. I love that. Now, I know recently, man, you became a father, husband. Um, how are those transitions with, now your family starting to grow and you have this program that you guys are well respected and your contenders moving forward for a national championship? How do you find balance, Coach Acosta?
Balance is something that I work on every day. I think that's something that I work every day. I'm trying to be the best father I could be. I grew up without my dad, so I want to make sure I'm there for my daughter. Especially, it's extremely important for fathers to be involved in their daughter's life. So I want to make sure that I'm there for her, and make sure that I push her to be the best that she could be. And also being married and having a child is something I never thought was going to happen to me. So to me, it's a blessing that I get to wrestle, which is my hobby, that I get to do full time. I get to have the coolest wife ever, most supportive woman that I have ever met, and also have this cute little baby that makes dinosaur noises when she sees me. So it's one of the best things that have ever happened to me. It has changed me completely. In the year that she's been around, she's about to be 2. My mindset, my emotional intelligence, everything has shifted. Everything has shifted, and I feel so much better and so much happier now that I have this life that God gave me, that I'm extremely proud of, and I can't wait to go home every day, and it's awesome.
Man, it looks good on you, Coach. It looks good on you. On me, it does, man. And obviously, I have a children myself, and I'm seeing all of you guys starting to have your babies, and families are growing, and it's a proud feeling, man, because obviously when we've grown up together now, from college, until you guys starting your coaching careers. I've been doing my club thing, and family is what's most important, man, and legacy is everything, you know. And as we get into the question of legacy, what would you want to leave behind to your wrestlers, your family out there in DR, Florida, Illinois, Iowa? What legacy or words you want to be left behind, you know, when you walk away from the sport of wrestling?
That's a deep question. I even ask myself that sometimes, like, when I die or whatever, like, who will show up on my funeral? What would they say? So I just want to make sure I leave an impact in every one of my wrestlers, heart and mind, and telling them that you could do anything possible if you put your mind and heart to it. And in reality, the more you look around, everybody's fighting something, right? That's why you see lucha, right? Lucha just means effort. It means struggle. It means overcoming adversity. So, we're all going to get hit with adversity in life. The question is, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to fold or are you going to push forward? So I just want them to remember that remember the lucha and what lucha truly entails. Because life sometimes, man, you're gonna get a bad sandwich, and the question is what you're gonna do about it when you get it. And we all get dealt different cards from God, and it's all about how you play them and how you overcome those adversities that life throws at you. So I just want them to remember me as a loving person and a person that pushed them to be the best they could be, and a person that's honest with them. I'm extremely honest and extremely blunt with my guys, and let them know what life really is and how everything works in the world. So I just want them to remember me as a coach that loves them, and a coach that makes them and push them to be the best that they could be on and off the mat.
Yes, sir. That is really well said. Um, Coach, man, Omi, it's been a pleasure, man. I know we had to reschedule our interview today. I'm gonna set an audio that I'm gonna upload for all the people and the supporters. But I thank you so much for taking your time out today, man, and speaking with Wrestling with Diversity again. Like I said, we're a platform that's dedicated to telling stories, man, and your story is one for the ages. I mean, from being in DR as a young boy to learning English to forget the wrestling, just learning the language and being able to transition into the leadership role that you've been able to do. Man, you're a one of one coach, and we look forward look forward to you having a great season this year. And we thank you so much for coming on Wrestling with Diversity podcast. And be blessed, man. Take care, Lucha. Yes, sir. One love.